Hi, I'm Imogen Lamport from Inside Out Style.
And I'm Jill Chivers from shopyourwardrobe.com.
Now, one of the things that often comes up in conversation with other image consultants and with clients is some people want the idea of a uniform and some people like the idea of no uniform, or a uniform makes them very uncomfortable. So I wanted to ask Jill, how do you feel about the idea of uniform? Is it confronting or is it comforting?
I find it very comforting, and I've worn a version of a uniform my entire life. It doesn't look like it because I inject variety in terms of colour and different items, but I'm really wearing the same thing almost all of the time. And this really hit me when I was working in Canada, actually. And I wore the same thing every day to work. It was a casual work environment. It just looked different because the colours were different. It was jeans and a turtleneck and boots. And the jeans changed and the turtlenecks changed. I don't wear turtlenecks anymore, you'll be happy to know. But that's really pretty much what I wore all the time. And I didn't realise that that's what I was doing until I started to explore style a little bit more. And the same is true now, that I wear versions of the same thing, and I find it incredibly comforting. I am one of those people that has multiples of things that to somebody else might look the same or very similar, and there is some wastage there, I'll happily admit to that, but I've developed that kind of wardrobe. I've created it because I love wearing a version of the same thing, and if I had to pick a wardrobe, a uniform, it would be some form of boot with a heel and jeans and a blazer. Now, I don't think I'm going to be asked to choose to wear just one outfit for the rest of my life, but if I was asked, I'd be ready. And it's a version of what I'm wearing right now. And I just, to me, it brings me enormous sense of joy and comfort. I know that's not true for everybody, but it is for me.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think I'm the opposite.
Yeah.
I would go nuts if you made me wear the same thing all the time. And I enjoy wearing a pair of jeans, but I also enjoy wearing a dress.
Yeah.
And I notice every time I've done like a for October challenge, by the end of October, I am desperate to wear some pants. You know, I want to get my jeans on. I like the opportunity where I wake up in the morning and I, what do I feel like today? And I like choice and I like options.
But that's so interesting because I do too. It's just my choices are different, or they're from a more limited pool, but it's a deeper pool in some way. So I like to wear dresses as well, but I almost have one style of dress. It's the same style of dress. I have a few in it, which I wear. But so it's really interesting that the same driving need of choice and how do I feel, how am I going to express myself, drives both of us. But your pool of potential items is so much wider than mine.
Yes, I'm probably much less. You've got a very definable signature style, while mine would not be. And and yes, I like butterfly prints, and I've noticed that I have a lot of butterfly prints. But I don't just buy something because it's got a butterfly print, and I don't like every butterfly print. And I also look at something and I go, well, I'm never going to wear a cowboy boot, so just because it's got a butterfly print on it doesn't mean I'm going to wear it.
Yeah.
So it's got to, run through. But I like that some days I want to feel more feminine and girly, and other days I might be a little bit more rebellious, and other days I want to be more dramatic. And so I actually want a larger variety than just what I feel is limiting myself. And I feel like then I feel all boxed in, and it actually makes me feel very uncomfortable.
Yes.
On the inside.
That's so interesting.
And it's very interesting because they did say that Steve Jobs wore the same black turtleneck and pants every day because it meant he could be free in his thinking at work.
Yeah.
But for me, actually doing that almost, I feel like it limits, my creativity starts in the day by choosing what to put on.
It's so interesting, isn't it, that we can all be driven by a similar set of universal feelings and human drivers, but the way in which we get those needs met are very different. I belonged to an online community for a while, and there was a woman on there who she wanted to take the uniform concept even further and wear exactly the same clothes, not the same white t-shirt, for example, but she would have 10 of them, all exactly the same, bought at the same time, where she really, I think she had Mrs. Rubble, Barney's wife, as her, she actually referred to her as her style item, as somebody who wore the same outfit every single day. And that to her was a form of release, a form of liberation.
Yes.
And whereas for you that would be constraining to the point of shutting down an essential part of who you are and what you offer to the world.
And it's interesting because with my daughter, with both my kids, I have let them, from the minute they could dress themselves, they have chosen what they put on. They put the garments together. I never comment about whether I think they look good together. And I can tell you my kids have gone out the house with very odd mismatched items wearing, but I've gone, that's their self-expression, and who am I to tell them what they should and shouldn't wear?
Yeah.
And it's one of those things because, and I suppose maybe because I was brought up with school uniforms, which I hated wearing school uniforms, really hated it. In fact, when I've worked places, I remember there was one place I was working and they said they were going to bring in a uniform. I said, well, I have to quit then.
Whereas for me, I loved having a school uniform. I brought my own sense of variety to it in that rebellious teenage way that we do. But I never felt constrained by it. And I worked in a place that didn't have a uniform, and I almost instituted my own.
Yeah.
So it's so very fascinating.
And it's one of those things that often people come up, and I write about capsule wardrobes, which is a great place to start. If you haven't got anything, it's a great way of building a wardrobe, and it's brilliant for travel.
Yes.
Now, for some people, it works for their entire life. But for some others of us, I would be, if all I got was one little capsule, I'd be going, stir crazy. And I get bored. And even though I can love something, I can also get bored with it.
Yes.
And I think sometimes it may be what's your boredom threshold for certain things.
Yes. And the essential point seems to boil down to me to choice, personal choice. How much of it is your choice? How much of it is imposed? And I think that's the thing that changes it from being handcuffs to handrail, from being liberating to something that constrains. And to me, clothing and dressing is all about personal choice.
Yeah, and I think personal choice is the most important thing. And so all the rules, all the guidelines, everything you have, it's still in the end, it's your choice and how you feel. And your kids may not feel the same way you do. And it's always interesting, I find, when, I have a client and they suddenly have this moment when we're going through their personality style that they go, oh, that's my daughter. No wonder the stuff I'm trying to make her wear is not what she wants to wear. Because they suddenly realise she's different. She's not the same.
And it also brings up interesting issues about when you're given clothing or accessories. And that's happened to me at various odd points, well-wishing friends. I had a co-worker once who put on a lot of weight and gave me 2 suitcases full of clothing, which were all beautiful designer things that suited her, but were not my style at all. And I sort of laboured through wearing them for a while because I kind of felt it was the politic thing to do. And it can be dangerous territory when people give you things. And I guess the trick is to either try and work with the item and make it your own, or to find a way to gently and kindly suggest that somebody else might get greater wear.
Yeah. So it is very interesting, the thought of the uniform. Do you like the idea of a uniform? And if so, what is it? Or do you really find the whole idea of a uniform abhorrent? We'd love to hear your thoughts.